Pushing the off button on the radio transmitter again takes us to the next option, which is open or open closing reports. Open closing reports are typically used if you have the dialer activated, whether you're going back to base or reporting via SMS monitoring, etc., to report every time the alarm system is turned on and off. Open refers to when the security system is disarmed or you're opening the building to be free for people to move in, and closing is for when you close the premises or arm the system, and that's what we relate to as closing, is when the security system is armed. So therefore, if you enable opening or closing or arm and disarm reports, then every time you arm or disarm the security system, it will notify you, so you've got advice of when the system has been opened and closed or armed or disarmed. If you wish to set the open and close reports, you then push the on button on the radio key to enter into these options. When off is selected, then all opening and closing reports are disabled. If we then push the on button, which then on will come on, and when on or enabled, opening and closing reports will be sent at the end of the exit delay. Once you've selected the option you wish, push and hold the panic button to save your settings. Pushing the off button on the radio key takes us to the next option, which is low battery reporting. Again, if the dialer is enabled, we can get the system to report via the dialer back to base monitoring or via SMS, etc., of when a device has a low battery. If you wish to program a low battery report via the dialer, push the on button on the radio key, which takes us into this menu, and then subsequent presses of the on buttons will cycle through the options. The first option is none, where no reports will be sent. Pressing the on button takes us to main, so that will report low batteries if the main SecrityGuard 3 battery goes low. Pushing the on button on the radio key takes us to the next submenu option, which is sensor. If sensor is selected, then the SG3 will report low batteries, including panic buttons, from any detection device. Pushing the on button on the radio key again takes us to the next submenu, which is all. If all is selected, then low battery reports will report via the dialer on both the main SecrityGuard 3 low battery as well as any detection device that's connected into the SG3. Once you've selected the option you wish, push and hold the panic button to save your settings. Pushing the off button on the radio key takes us to the next main menu option, which is client, where it allows you to set a client account number. A client account number is an individual number assigned to you from the control room, so when the panel reports back to base monitoring, it knows what panel it came from. This number must be obtained from the control room before you program it. To program in a client account number, we push the on button on the radio key that takes us into the menu options to allow you to program. Once you enter the client account number option, the first digit of the number will be flashing. Each time you push the on button of the radio key, it will move on to the next digit until you get to the number you wish. Then you press and hold the panic button to store that number, and then moves to the next number. Same sequence, on button moves you through to the next number you wish. Hit the panic button to store it until you've programmed the whole 4 digits of the client account number. Pushing the off button on the radio key takes us to the next option, which is phone number 1. Pressing the on button on the radio key takes us into the programming menu for programming phone number 1. And programming the phone number is virtually identical in the same process of what we did to program the client account number. When we enter this programming option, the first digit of the phone number will be flashing. By pressing the on button on the radio key and subsequent presses of the on button, it takes us through and will increment the number for the first digit you wish to have. Once you get to the number that you wish, you then press and hold the panic button, which then stores the first digit. It moves us then on to the next digit, where again we push the on button on the radio key, get to the digit you wish for the second digit of the phone number, pushing the on button, and so on until we get to the end of the phone number. As the display is a 5-segment display, it will only display the last 5 digits of the number. The first digits of the phone number will be moved to the left, but they're still there, so you can see the last 5 digits of where you're up to. Once we've stored the phone number 1, we then hit the off button on the radio key, takes us to the next option, which is phone number 2. Phone number 2 is a backup to phone 1, so if the call could not get through to the control room or the phone number 1, it then will revert to phone number 2 and try to attempt to get through on that number. The programming of phone number 2 is identical to what we've just covered in phone number 1. Pushing the off button on the radio key takes us to the next option, which is Gsm Signal Strength. If you're using the Gsm dialer in the SG3, push the on button to go into Signal Strength, and the SG3 will then display what the strength is. 0 is for very low signal and 9 is for a good signal. Pushing the off button on the radio key takes us to the next option, which is Abort. Dialer abort delay gives the opportunity to abort sending an alarm message to a central station within the program time if there is an alarm. So therefore it gives the customer time to disarm the alarm system if they accidentally trip it on entry before it dials out to a control room. To program the abort time, you push the on button on the radio key. This will take you into the setting, will show you what's currently set at, and then each subsequent press of the on button on the radio key will step you to the next time, and the times are between 0 and 60 seconds in 5-second increments. Once you get the setting you wish, push and hold the panic button to save your options. Pushing the off button on the radio key takes us to the next option, which is Medic, standing for Medical Key Abort Delay. This option is used in conjunction with radio keys or radio buttons that have been programmed as medical keys. If programmed, the medical key abort time gives the opportunity to abort sending alarm message to the central station or via the dialer within the program time if the medical button's been accidentally pressed. To program this medical abort time, you press the on button on the radio key to take you into the option, and then subsequent presses of the on button will cycle you through the sub-menu, which will cycle through times in 5-second increments. As you cycle through the time, once you get to the time that you wish to have, you push and hold the panic button, which to save that setting. Pushing the off button on the radio key takes us to the next programming option, which is T-calls or dialer test calls. The SG3 can send through a test message through to the control room or through to your SMS audible dialing to report that the dialer and the SG3 is functioning correctly. This option allows you to set up at what period of time do you want those test calls to go through. Pushing the on button on the radio key will enter into the test call options, and then pushing the on button again and subsequent presses will cycle you through the sub-menus of when you want that test calls to go through. Once you've selected the option you wish, press and hold the panic button to save the setting. Pressing the off button on the radio key then takes us to the next option, which is Dialer, where it allows you to set up the dialer reporting format. Pushing the on button on the radio key takes us into this option where we can set up the format. The first reporting format is Gsm CID, CIB standing for Contact ID, and this is a format you select when you're going back to a central station, 24-hour monitoring station. Hitting the on button on the radio key takes us to the next sub-menu option, which is Gsm Sms. This is for an SMS signal if you're going back to a mobile phone. Pushing the on button on the radio key again takes us to the next sub-menu option, which is Gsm AUD, standing for audible dialing through to a mobile phone or a fixed landline. Pushing the on button of the radio key once more takes us to the next sub-menu option, which is Off, and when Off is selected, the dialer is totally disabled. Once you've selected the option you wish, push and hold the panic button, which then saves this setting. Pushing the off button of the radio key takes us to the next option, which is power or power management mode for the SG3. One of the unique features of the SG3 is its ability to run for a long period of time, typically 3 to 4 months, without being connected to the mains power. To be able to do this, the SG3 has a lot of power management options of how and when you wish to use majority of power, example when the GSM's used, etc. To enter into the power management options, push the on button on the radio key to take into the power management options. Subsequent presses of the on button will then cycle through the sub-menus of the various power management options. What I suggest you do is to read through the installation manual that comes with the unit. On page 24 will explain full detail of the different options and what they're typically used for. Once you've selected the option you wish, if you want to change it from the default, which is battery, then push and hold the panic button to save the programming option. Pushing the off button on the radio key takes us to the next option, which is default, or reset back to factory default settings. If you'd like to default the system, push the on button on the radio key. This takes you into a sub-menu. Subsequent presses will cycle through the sub-menu of what you'd like to default. Select what you'd like defaulted back to factory default, and then press and hold the panic button to default the system. Pushing the off button on the radio key takes us to the last programming option, which is program exit. If you wish to exit program mode, you then push the on button on the radio key. That will take us out of program mode into normal operation mode, or alternatively pressing the off button on the radio key starts us through the programming options again, and we can go back to something we may have missed. Thank you for viewing this video, which I hope assisted you. But please read this video in conjunction with the programming and installation manual that accompanies this unit. You will also note on page 25 of the installation manual is a full programming summary that will assist you in quick, easy lookup of the various options and what the default settings are. Thank you very much.